Hello everybody, Jared Volle here for CreativeSetup.com. I got my first QA coming in from Italy, so I'm excited about this. I didn't know it was from Italy, but the email, it said Il Giorno Giovetti. I probably butchered that. And I got excited, I'm like, oh cool, an email coming from Italy. And so I put it into Google Translate, and Google Translate took this beautiful sounding sentence and it became on Thursday day. So here's an email, a question that was asked on a Thursday day for you. The question says, Jared, I have a big problem. I force myself to write jokes every day, and I do write some jokes. I'm not quite sure what you mean by some jokes. Like, I guess you force yourself, but maybe you just don't come up with as many as you'd like. But I think they're not good, right? I feel for you on that one. I know how that goes. Like you put in the effort, but then when you look at it, it just doesn't feel like it's there. Sometimes I share my jokes with comedy magazines. I didn't know comedy magazines were still around. Like there was a bunch of them, but then I remember them all having a lot of financial issues. So maybe this is one from Italy or something. Anyway, comedy magazines, but they select very few. So okay, so you're not getting you're submitting jokes into a magazine, but you're not getting selected. Should I keep writing, or am I doing something wrong? So I have no idea about these comedy magazines. I will say from the very beginning that I would never submit my material to a comedy magazine, but my material would never work for something like that. If I can write a piece of material, like write it on a paper, and I can give you that piece of paper, if nothing changes when I translate the real me onto just a piece of paper and you can just read that, if there's a perfect translation, then it doesn't matter. I don't matter at all, right? If I can read my joke and it gets a specific reaction, and then I can give it to you and you can read the same joke to a different audience or whatever, and nothing actually changes, there's no fundamental change to it, then for me, I would throw away that joke. I don't like having material that doesn't need me, because I don't think that my material is bigger than me, right? I am the comedian that people want to see, right? I'm bigger than the words that I say, right? So if I think that I am my jokes, which a lot of comedians do fall into this false belief, right? They think they are their material. If I think that, then I give up everything that's really interesting about me, right? Everything that's worth talking about. Me as a human doesn't really matter, right? Because everything you need is in the words of this joke. So for me, I rebelled against that kind of idea about that joke writing structure. I rebelled against that a long time ago. I am not the comedy teacher that you should go to if you want to talk about formal jokes. I have kind of carved out my own niche where I can just be myself and teach other people to be themselves and be funny while they're being themselves, right? That's where my passion lies. If stand-up comedy was just about joke writing to me, I would have never have gotten back on stage after that first time, right? After I checked it off my bucket list, I would have come back, right? Because the idea that I will sit down and I will brainstorm jokes makes me want to throw up, right? I despise any of those formulaic ways of just rinse and repeat, where the real you doesn't actually matter, right? When you're brainstorming, the real you doesn't matter. And I know people think that those who know my personality is different, my brainstorm is a little different than yours, and it's not true, right? Like I have a master's degree in creativity. I can debunk brainstorming all day long. It doesn't work the way you think it works, right? Your best material, the jokes that you have written, when you use brainstorming, your great ideas occur in spite of brainstorming, not because of them, right? It's just because that's not how your brain works. So going to your question, should I keep writing or am I doing something wrong? When I first read this sentence, I was like, well, I'm not quite sure if I can answer that question because I have no idea what your writing is like. But as I thought about it for a second, I realized I can answer that question. You are doing it wrong. And the way I know has nothing to do with quality, right? If you wrote me and you said the magazines are accepting your jokes, then I would still say you're doing something wrong, right? Because inside this email, you are implying that you don't enjoy writing comedy, right? Should I keep writing? If you are loving the experience of writing, then that wouldn't be a question, right? So if I had to take a guess, I would say that you have read a few books that have taught you very strict rules that you did not use when you were naturally funny, right? So whatever sense of humor you had before you got into stand-up comedy proper, or into this joke writing, this proper joke writing structure, right? That person probably is either entirely gone, or you feel like that is a distant memory, or not possible, right? Because a lot of I hate blaming comedy teachers, but a lot of them just, they have this idea that you just layer, you do the joke structure, and then you put your personality on top, right? Which is like saying, as a baker, I can only make one cake, but it's up to me to decide how much frosting I get to put on the top of something. Like it's inconsequential to the overall product, right? So it's, you're buying this, or the audience is listening to this exact same pattern, this exact same style of writing a joke, but people like to say, well, my joke is different because I said it a little bit like this, and you have to do all these backflips in order to justify your being on stage like you are, right? You don't need justification. When you are the real you, you don't have to apologize for anything, right? Like, you can be that real you on stage. You can be that real you while you are writing comedy, and that real you is badass. Right? I'm just learning a lot of this myself, where the more I find myself trusting myself, the more opportunities are opening up. Right? Like, we just started this Q&A series, and I'm already getting flooded with these awesome emails about questions, and I'm just so excited to keep engaging with you guys. Right? But that only comes because I'm trusting myself to be the real me, and I don't have to apologize for that real me. Right? So you say, am I writing wrong? The answer is yes, but only because it doesn't feel like you're being the real you. So I would encourage you to take a step back and think about the rules that you think you have to apply in order to be funny. And ask yourself if those rules are the same as when you are naturally funny in real life. So I know people love to freak out about their stage performance, but we pretend like people are not people once they get on stage, right? Like, I can just sit here and I can be funny and be the real me. And in fact, a lot of this is really bizarre, but if you go to some open mics, right? If you spend some time around them, you get a lot of experience, you will find open mic comedians that you're sitting at the bar with them, and they are just making you like cry with laughter. They are just so freaking funny, right? And then they're just this uninhibited self where they don't need permission to be themselves, and they don't need to filter their real sense of humor through any rules. They can just be hysterical, right? But then they go on stage, and you can feel the shift. Right? You can feel that the mask comes on, and they start telling you jokes that are just nowhere near as funny as the real them. Right? I've had several people in my life where I am so glad I don't have to compete with at the bar you, right? Because when you go on stage, you drag all of these preconceptions with you. Right? And if you didn't have those, then I would stand no chance. Right? There are so many people out there that are just hysterical. But one of the most common things you will see is that open mic comedians have this preconception that they have to treat stand-up comedy differently. You can go on stage and just tell a story that you have already enjoyed telling people. You don't even have to change it, right? The only reason we freak out is because we're like, oh, I'm on stage and I'm afraid to fail, so now I'm going to pick up all these weird rules, and each rule kind of changes the real you into something else. And it just slowly strips away the real you until you see this shell on the stage. That is what frustrates me so much about, that's why creative stand-up is a thing, right? That frustration. I still have some pent-up anger about learning. I feel like I was almost lied to by comedy teachers when I was early on, right? They told me so many joke structures and so many things, and they said, this is the way it is, but it's not, that's not true, right? And I don't want to say they lied to me. I would say that they lived the same exact thing, that they lived what they're passing on, right? They're passing on fear, and they live that fear for their career as well. So I would say that's the reason why there are so many stupid rules in stand-up comedy that really block you from being who you are. Anyway, so with that said, check out some other videos, because there's more to it than just throwing away the rules. Like, you know, when you throw away the rules, you don't instantly know exactly what other rules you should have, right? So I don't suggest that you just go on stage and just start flinging stuff off at random, even though that is a possibility, right? That's actually a really fun possibility. When you have experience, that is super fun. Going on stage without any idea of what you're going to say is amazing, because the best things come out of you, and it's so natural, and the audience can really feel it. So when you drop those rules, a better you is going to come out, and a funnier you is going to come out as well. So I would suggest making space for something that you think is more real, right? And you don't have to be perfect the first time. I would suggest or assume that your first stage performance wasn't perfect. So don't expect, you know, just casting off the mask or throwing out all the rules to be perfect the first time as well. It probably won't be, but it will be amazing, right? My first show, where I said I reject every rule about comedy, I reject them all. I just came up and I just had a story that I wanted to tell. I believe I got like one laugh in like 5 minutes or something. I remember just being so excited by the end of that show, right? Because I knew the real me got on stage there, and I communicated something different that had never been on stage before. And this is 3 years into my career, right? And I also knew that I could improve that story. But the real me could get laughs on stage. Right? And instead of saying, oh man, that was a really bad show, not a single part of me was upset, because I felt heard for the first time on stage. And that is an amazing shift. Whether you get laughs or not, it feels incredible to be the real you on stage and have people react to you, to really respond to you. That connection is incredible. So for your joke writing process, I hope that you can find a way to kind of shake away from any preconceptions that you have, or anything that you think is blocking you from becoming that version of you. Anyway, so I'm Jared Volle. Thank you for emailing me from all the way from Italy. That was really cool to get an email there. Thanks for watching, and we're going to have a lot more of these Q&A videos in the future. These are super fun, so keep the emails coming.